up my talk in two parts. Okay, the first will be about the issue of gauge. KRDCL is proposing building this line on standard gauge, whereas our Indian Railway gauge is broad gauge. All the existing lines all over the country, including Kerala, are on broad gauge. So if you make it on standard gauge, it becomes a standalone line. You cannot, a train which is running on this line, standard gauge, cannot go on the rest of the network. And trains from the network cannot come on this line. So that's a very serious limitation. The second issue is about land and how it is going to affect the people, because this train will run at 200 kilometer per hour. A train running at 200 kilometer per hour creates a lot of noise and vibrations, ground vibrations and aerodynamic noise. So it will have effect on people who have property very near to where this line will be going. So these are the two main issues. So I'll now start with the issue of gauge. Now, one thing very important that we should keep in mind is that these lines are very costly lines. Like this line, according to KRDCL's estimate, will be about 121 crores per kilometer. That is almost 6 times the cost of a normal railway line. A normal railway line costs about 20 crores per kilometer, including the cost of land. This is 121 crores, so that is almost 6 times. So that's a big jump. Now, when you have a line which has so much capacity, then you should also have traffic. You should have sufficient number of trains to run on it. Now, because you are going to have it on standard gauge, you can run only standard gauge trains. You cannot transfer the existing trains, like you have long distance trains, you have Shatabdi train, you have got Rajdhani express trains. If you make this line on broad gauge, then all these trains, important trains, they can also be brought on the same line. Then your utilization of the capacity improves. Say, for example, to begin with, you may have 20 high-speed trains, and you may have about 20 trains, normal trains, the fast trains, which can also travel on the same railway line. So your utilization of the capacity improves. It almost doubles. I mean, I'm giving you just one example. My estimate is that it will double if you adopt broad gauge. Now, second advantage, major advantage of broad gauge is that your high speed trains can go to nearby places. Like in the south, they can go to Kanyakumari. Towards east, they can go to Coimbatore, even Mysore and Bangalore. And in the north, they can go towards Mangalore and even to Goa. So these trains can have extended run. I mean, on this line, they will run at 200 kilometer per hour. Say when it crosses Kasaragod and goes towards Mangalore, then it will slow down and run at about 120 or 110, whatever speed is permissible over there. So this is the second advantage, that reach of your trains increases. Your high speed trains can cover a much larger area and not be confined to just this one line from Trivandrum to Kasaragod. Now, another important point is the challenge of where to make the stations. If you build this line on broad gauge, then you can use the existing stations for these trains also. Like you will have to decongest, like some of the stations may be already congested, like Thiruvananthapuram is congested, so maybe some trains can be shifted to Kochi Valley, and some space can be created so that these high-speed trains can start from Trivandrum. In Kochi, you have got 2-3 stations, so it will not be a problem. At other places, sufficient capacity is there. Kozhikode, Kannur, and even Kasaragod. Capacity will not be capacity of the existing stations will not be a problem. So you will be carrying, if you build this line on broad gauge, your line will be going through the city center where your main stations are already there. So people will be able to access this line very quickly. Now, when you are building this line on standard gauge, your stations are quite far away from the city center. Say, for example, Kochi, uh, the place where they are proposing station will be almost 20 to 25 kilometers from Fort Kochi area, and maybe about 15 to 20 kilometers from the MG Road area. So that's a lot of distance to be covered, in rush hours. It can, morning and evening rush hour, it may take up to 1 hour or maybe even more to reach the new station. Similarly, at Trivandrum also, the trains will start at Kochi Valley. Kochi Valley is quite far off, for people living in the proper city proper. Now take same is the case with this Kovalam, this mm, Quilon also. Quilon, the station will be very far off. It will be towards the eastern side, almost 15 kilometers from the existing station. Same thing at Kottayam. Most of the places, the station will be far away. Now, because these are high speed trains where people use it for short distance travel. I mean, these are not meant for long distance travel. So people want don't if the station is far away, then lot of time is consumed in going to the station at the starting point, and then again at the destination you have to go from the station to whatever place you want to go. So this will be a big disincentive to people to use this line. Now, I was reading some news, this yesterday or day before yesterday, Indian Express carried some article where MD of KRDCL is saying that we will be making new smart cities where our new stations are coming. Now, I mean, this is all very fine, smart cities, but you see, these cities to develop take 20, 30 years. I mean, you may start a city, but sufficient number of people to come and live in those cities, it's a very long term process. So, I mean, and then it will be only one of the, it will not be the main, it will not become the main city. It will be just another part of the city. And for a very long time, that city will have hardly any people living in there. So that's not a viable solution to this problem. So now related to gauge is this issue also, that because if you make it on broad gauge, then you are using the existing stations. So your requirement of land reduces drastically, because the land is costliest in the city. Now, because to make new stations, even though they are in the outskirts,